Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Worried, and today I'm going to be ranking the top specs in 3v3 Arena. This is in my predictions for the upcoming patch. So let's add a new tier here, S+, because obviously you need S+ tier. All right, so now that we got the tanks out of the way, we can finally rate our specs. So in the upcoming patch, I don't think DK is really getting anything additional to it that will really just like change its tier that's in. I think DK will still end up being C tier. I don't think anything will change that. DK just has pretty bad survivability in PvP currently. It just struggles with being able to hold its own, and that for that reason, I think it's in the C tier. Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter is a tough one to rank because I think Demon Hunter was already really good. It just kind of got outshined by things like Fury Warrior, just being a sort of better version of it. But now that Fury Warrior is getting pretty much reined in, I think DH will be a great substitute. I think it might even be S+ tier. I'm gonna wait to fill out the other rankings, but I'll hold it at S right now. Feral Druid is obviously S+ tier. I mean, Feral is just absolutely. It just continues to be a great spec. Has really potent crowd control, great AOE damage. It, I mean, the mobility obviously of Feral is great too. I mean, pretty much has no downsides. Boomy, I think Boomy does have some survivability issues. I don't know if damage is that much of an issue. I don't really fight that many Boomies, so I couldn't really exactly say. But I think B tier is probably a safe bet for Boomy. I'm gonna wait to rank healers. Augvoker, I think Aug is actually not bad. I think it's actually pretty good. The problem with Augvoker is it's just a kind of a gimmicky one shot. You kind of just like every minute or so, they deep breath, and you kind of have to look out for that. But if you're able to live through that, then you're not really going to be scared of an Augvoker. Dev Evoker, I think Deb is actually really good. I think Dev is really solid. The only downside I think Dev has is it kind of dies to certain classes, but even then, I think it's very tanky to things like warriors and stuff like that, where they can just kite them permanently. I think Dev Evoker is a pretty solid spec right now. BM Hunter is really good in twos and shuffle. I don't think it's that great in threes though because of its survivability. I think it kind of just gets ran down by warriors, but now that warriors have kind of gotten nerfed, it might rise a little bit higher. I'm hesitant to put it. I think A tier is fine. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad for sure, but it's definitely really insane in twos and shuffle. But in threes, I just don't really see it often. I think Marksman is sort of in the same boat where it's just kind of the survivability. The damage is there. It just can't really live too long. Survival Hunter, I think Survival Hunter is also pretty good. I think it's just like a slightly weaker version of the two specs, just especially because it's has to go in melee, so it just takes a lot of extra added damage. So that survivability issue is just going to be even more enhanced than it would be with the other two specializations. Arcane Mage, I think Arcane Mage is I think it is S+ tier. I think it is really good, but for the average player, it's not going to be S+ tier at all. But like if you're the top end player on this specialization, you're going to do insane. You're going to do really well for yourself just because it kites melee, and melee are really good right now. So I feel like it is a really solid pick. But for an average player, I would put it down a tier or two. But I'm just going to leave it as S+ tier, but probably the bottom of S+ tier. I think some other specs are way better. Fire Mage, I think Fire Mage is sort of in the same boat as DK. It doesn't really do a whole lot that Frost and Arcane can't do. It has some added survivability with Cot, but double block for Frost Mage is still just better. I still think Fire Mage just has, I don't exactly know the issue with Fire Mage, but it doesn't really seem like it does that much damage, and it doesn't really bring anything extra that Frost or Arcane doesn't already have. So I don't think it's that great. Maybe you could advocate for B tier. I still actually don't think it's as good as these specs. So I will just leave it down here. Frost Mage is absolutely busted. It is insanely good. It continues to be really good. This might just be a complete warrior take, but I think Frost Mage is probably the best specialization in the entire game, if not one of the top 3 best specs in the entire game, for sure. It just works with so many specs. You can play warrior mage, you can play feral mage, you can play rogue mage, you can play a lot with mage. I think it is really good. I think Windwalker is also in the S tier. I think Windwalker is, or S plus tier. I think Windwalker is absolutely insane. I think you can do a lot with it. I think its disruption is pretty good. But yeah, your lockdown isn't that great comparison to like Feral and DH and Warrior, but it is still very potent with its damage and AoE damage. And like tools like ROP and Clash and things like that are really good. Rep Paladin, I think Rep Paladin, it did get nerfed this patch. I think Rep Paladin is going to go down a tier. I still think it'll be really good, but the Sank nerf was quite a big hit to it. That was kind of one of its biggest utility abilities that it brought to the team. And I think Ret kind of piggybacked off of Warrior being really good. And now that Warrior is getting reined in, I think Ret will fall a decent margin, but I don't know exactly how much that'll be. It might be in the 8 tier, but for now, I'm just going to leave it to the low S tier. I still think its utility is great, but it's just not as good as it was. Shadow Priest, I think Shadow Priest with Warrior getting nerfed, I think it will be slightly better, but I still don't think you will see that many of them. I don't think it's that bad. I am hesitant to put it in A tier. It could be B, it could be A, but I think Shadow Priest isn't bad. It's just it kind of gets eaten by all these top melee, and that is the problem with it. But I do think it's actually pretty tanky for what it is. I just think some other casters just do everything that Shadow Priest does just better. Rogue, I think is probably just the B tier spec. I don't think it's that insane. I think it does have some survivability issues. It's just a worse version of the other rogue specs. It does bring some AoE damage. Yeah, it's just the survivability is a big weak point of it. It is still a solid spec for sure because it is rogue. Outlaw Rogue is tough to rank because it's completely different in every bracket. I still think Outlaw Rogue is really good. I don't think its damage is insane, but it does have really strong crowd control, really strong mobility, and Smoke Bomb is obviously a really good ability and can completely shut down teams. I think Smoke Bomb and Kidney Shot just automatically put the spec high. Like that's all it takes. Subtlety Rogue, I think Subtlety Rogue is actually among Outlaw Rogue. I think they're both really, really solid. We could even argue that Sub Rogue is even better, but Sub Rogue is one of those specs where it really only shines with like the best players in the game. I think like if you're a lower rated player, Sub Rogue won't be as good, but I think it is still very strong nonetheless if you pair it with a mage. Ellie Shaman is tough to rank again because it kind of piggybacks off of other Immortal Strike classes, but it is a very, very strong spec with its toolkit and damage. So I think Ellie Shaman is definitely in S plus tier. I don't know exactly where in S plus tier it would be, but I'm just going to rank it there because I think that's fine. Enhanced Shaman, I don't exactly know what the downside of Enhancement Shaman is. I think mainly it's mobility and damage, but I could be entirely wrong. I don't think its survivability is that big of a deal in comparison, but maybe I'm just out of touch. But I still think it's not that great. I think it definitely lands itself among the C tier, if not the D tier. But I think people like Askarani in Big Dam, they can make it work. I still think it can do good in some very, very, very niche situations, but I would just say other melee specs would just outshine it in every way. Aflock, I think you will see a rise of Warlocks now that Warrior has been reined in. I think Aflock isn't that great of a spec, but maybe with the UA buffs, maybe it can see some sort of play. Well, it is a UA backlash buff, but I guess it's not really that big of a buff. But I don't think Aflock is that bad. I just think it does have some pretty bad survivability, and that puts it among the B tier because most of these specs are just bad in survivability. Demo Warlock, I think Demo Warlock is actually really good. I think Demo Warlock is really solid. It is tough to rank because Fury Warrior did just get nerfed and that was its hardest counter. I think Demon Warlock might see some rise, but I don't exactly know how much of a rise that will be. I do think Destro is probably just better. I I'm hesitant to put in S tier, but I do think I I do really think Destro Warlock in threes is actually a really solid spec. If you tie with like a Feral and a Holy Paladin, I do think it is very strong. But for the average player, it's probably not going to be as strong just because of its defensive weaknesses. It is very, very squishy. So I could either put it on high of A tier or S tier, but it is definitely not. I don't know if I could. I don't know. I think it. I think it's really strong. It would probably be in between S and A, like an A plus tier, but I do think it is pretty good. Arms Warrior. Arms is tough to rank. Arms is getting a 20% XP buff to offset the nerf to Show No Mercy. So that puts like Colossus Arms as just a flat 20% XP buff. But I don't know exactly which hero talent tree will be better, but I do think Arms will have a place in the meta. I don't exactly know if that's S tier or A tier. I'm actually going to rate these here. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe like, I do think Destro Warlock is solid though. I don't know exactly how good Arms Warrior is going to be. It could be much stronger than anticipated because Fury got nerfed, but we shall see. And of course, our final spec, Fury Warrior. It is my main specialization. I do think Fury will fall off quite a bit. Slaughterhouse will be reverted essentially to what it was in Season 1 Dragonflight, which is the 12-second fall off. So you will have to stack Slaughterhouse 3 times with Rampage in a 12-second window to get its max effect. So that will leave you with about 3 to 4 seconds now after the nerf of 36% MS, which is quite a hefty nerf to the MS effect. Previously, it did get buffed to 20 seconds. That was an insane buff to the spec. That's why you saw Fury Warrior rise in Season 4 Dragonflight. Season 1 with War Within is because Slaughterhouse did get insanely buffed, and Execute was really strong after they buffed it like 10 times. But I do think this reversion of Slaughterhouse to Season 1 Dragonflight is essentially probably going to kill the spec, I think. I still think it will do better than some of the B tier specs, but I don't think it will be on par with the other A tier specs. I think it'll probably be high B. Maybe it will be low A. I don't think it'll be completely terrible, but I do think it does have some defensive weaknesses that will become apparent now that its one shot and MS effect are gone. I feel like its weaknesses will definitely shine out, but it could be low A or high B. I don't exactly know, but I do think it is going to be quite a hefty nerf for the spec. Now, healing specializations. This is actually a wild card. I don't exactly know what I can expect of healing, but I do think Resto Druid and Holy Priest are not really going to see any fall off at all. I think the mana nerfs are quite small. They already did have very, very strong mana. So I think they're probably just going to stay in their respective tiers. Now, the wildcard specs, I would say, are probably Holy Paladin and Mistweaver. These specs are getting buffed. Holy Paladin is getting a 100% buff to Denounce, which might see some sort of benefit to the spec's offensive capabilities. And also, Denounce is very great at countering specs with high crit, such as Fury Warrior, but Fury Warrior is getting nerfed. So Mistweaver, I don't exactly know. I did think the buffs were pretty big to the spec, especially the Jade statue buff. I do think that was a pretty huge one. And the Vivify buff, I do think Mistweaver might go up to S tier. I don't exactly know. This is a wild card, of course. I don't know exactly where I could rate this, but I do think it will see a rise for sure. Holy Paladin, I think Holy Paladin will be very good. I think Holy Paladin is already top 3 healer, top 3, top 4. I think Disc Priest will be right about at the same spot. It just kind of has mana problems, but I do think these specs will be about the same. Now, Resto Shaman, poor Resto Shamans. I don't really think Resto Shaman is going to be that great. I don't think it'll be that great. The buffs, it got a torrent buff, which is like 6.5% Riptide healing, um, which is a slight buff. It did get a Healing Tide health increase, but Healing Tide already was like a one shot, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I don't see Presvoker on this list. I don't know why it's not on here, but Presvoker I would probably actually rate like up on S tier. I think Presvoker is going to be really, really good. Probably the top of S tier. I do think the Time of Need buffs and the Verdant Embrace buffs might help a lot. I don't exactly know. I think what healers are definitely going to be a wild card for sure, though. Hey everybody, future me here. I'm going to change Demon Hunter. I think Demon Hunter is actually probably going to be way better than what I ranked it at. I initially was just going to rank it here and then move it accordingly. So I think DH will probably end up around here or here. I think it'll be really good. I think it'll definitely be really solid. But yeah, that is my list. Thank you everybody for watching.